Morning, everybody on the East Coast. Good afternoon. If someone's fucking with your head over LSD, call up Matthew. He'll explain it to you. My story kind of builds on what Rico brought to us about raising money. Back in the New Deal, they passed the Securities and Exchange Act, which basically said you can't lie to people when you're trying to raise money for businesses. And this uh, this story is about two businesses. One's High Times Holding, the other one is Cloud Source, and their CEOs, they got into a scheme with a guy named Mikula who wrote a um, Palm Beach Ventures rag about investments. And this guy came out with glowing accolades about the stock for High Times and this Cloud Source and claimed, this is an unsolicited, unpaid for commentary. Like, I wouldn't do my research independently. It turns out the guy's a lion sack of shit. And he had been pinched by the SEC before for doing this. He is under permanent injunction not to do any of this again. So they went to some third party consultants that funnel, hundreds of thousands of dollars to this guy to write these articles to pump up the value. And he was they lavishly wined and dined him, including paying for entertainment, whatever that might mean. I mean, I know what it meant for me, but for what he got from this, who knows? Um, and they raised millions of dollars to do this. And when the SEC began scratching and sniffing, they found the funnels of funds, and they took a look at what they said, and they basically lied to get the value pumped up, and they didn't disclose this payment that was coming out of securities, the monies they raised through selling securities. They didn't tell investors any of this. And for the High Times folks, there was a period when they had an exemption from full registration through what they call Regulation A, and that expired, and they continued to sell stock without coming back and re-registering and getting approved. So what happened is the SEC filed complaints against each of these, Levine and a guy named get this right, uh, Rick Bentley. Rick Bentley. Okay, and it turns out that they were caught, and they agreed to settle this stuff. They each paid a fine of $111,000, and they accepted a prohibition from being an officer and director of a public company for 3 years or 5 years. And they were enjoined from doing any more violations of the basic 10b-5 rule. Says you can't lie to people when you're trying to solicit money from them. So this is an extension of what Rico was talking about. If you're going out there and you're going to be raising money, and the cannabis sector's not raising as much money as it used to, you can't lie to people. And if you don't understand, people will lie to you, look you right in the eye, shake your hand, and lie right to your face. Let me tell you, it happens all the time. So that's a lesson to be learned out there. And I don't know if we're going to see any more of these guys. This guy Mikola is still being prosecuted by the SEC because apparently he didn't learn his lesson that you can't lie to raise money. We'll see if he pops back up again. Uh, that's one of those hard pressed stories for raising money in the cannabis industry. What do you guys all think about this? And as always, buyer beware. Caveat emptor. Buyer beware.
Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, man. What do you think about this, Mandy? We talked about this briefly on Monday. Rico covered this story, in regards with High Times and like I've never seen any other company doing funding through like mass emails.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to go about it. And also at the same time, you have to look at the nature of the way the world is turning. And we're all looking towards, easier and more convenient ways to do business, and raising capital is a very challenging way. So getting creative socially, I can see why they would make that attempt, especially a belief that the public has a vested interest in your success. Um, but again, this goes back to what I say all the time, which is we're in an emerging industry. For the first 20 years, it's going to be an emerging industry. Everything's going to be happening for the first time everywhere. And so when you're investing dollars, or you are a business operator who's seeking investment, I mean, these are legally binding discussions and documents that you're providing and signing. So you have to be honest. It will come back and bite you. you in the ass. If your numbers are not impressive, that's okay if you have a really good plan, right? And if your plan is truly that great, you're likely going to find funding. Just be honest. The whole reason people go looking for funding is usually a killer idea that just needs a little bit of financial backing. Don't inflate your numbers.
Well, but in the cannabis industry, we haven't really had people spanked for raising money yet. It's beginning to happen.
Oh,
And what
it's
happens
happening.
when you raise money is that everything in the eyes of the federal government becomes a security. So anything you say that's not true, or if you leave things out that would make it true if you were told and it wouldn't be in your favor, this is basically fraud. Okay. And once you come under their scrutiny, they're going to go back and look at all the shit you put in emails, all the things that you publicly published. Okay. And it's going to come back and haunt you. And people, I mean, I've been to marketing meetings, and Mandy, you have too, where someone throws an idea out there and you go, fuck you are. No, you're not going to do that. You're not going to say that. No, or I quit. Okay. And I tell you, I've had to arm wrestle some idiots that want to go out and say and do shit. When you're raising money, it could become a security at some point. The SEC don't play. And when they come after you, they're going to get you. Okay. And how they're going to get you, these guys are precluded from being involved in running businesses for a few years. You could be permanently precluded from doing that, but you may have to disgorge profits. I mean, we're watching something happening in New York right now with the former president, and once they come in and shake your tree, it may be that there's not a piece of fruit left when they're done shaking, and you could be totally out of business for things like this.
Well, currently the Trump org is out of business completely in New York.
No,
Yeah, they had their business
no.
license suspended.
Stop the ridiculousness.
We still love you, Jay.
Stop the ridiculousness.
I actually have a friend right now that I just want to plug real quick. He's got a nursery. He has a really awesome cut that I'm really excited about. It's high time stock crossed with New York retail license cuts. They're super cheap. You can buy them. You can get them anywhere. They'll ship them. They'll email them to you. It's dope.
This sounds
Check
like
'em out.
these sounds like strains that will test high in THCA, Luke.
Yes.
Yes, the ship everywhere strains.
They'll get you up in the daytime and put you to sleep at night, right?
Dale, quick question for you.
Just don't expect to get THC paid.
Yes. Dale, quick question for you before we move on. In regards with this story, I mean, these are mostly white collar crimes. Is there any really substantial jail time that could come with any type of conviction in this?
Well, nothing like you get with drugs. Luke and I faced the minimum mandatories where it's like you're fucked if you get convicted of this. These typically don't carry that because it's white collar, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they just, I mean, when you're doing drugs, you get spanked for 5, 10, 20 pieces, and these guys might have a maximum term of 3 to 5 years, something like that. But they hit you.
They go to the camp.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, they're at the camp.
All right. Well, we got to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.